Amy Coney Barrett is being, grilled to the extent that a bunch of Republicans who just want to put her on the Supreme Court and Dianne Feinstein can do. They're doing their best, I guess. There are some topics that might not come up, but that people definitely need to know about. And one was raised that I saw on Twitter, actually, by our guest, Adrian. So Adrian, you had tweeted about the fact that she wrote for a unanimous 3-judge panel back in 2019 that upheld the dismissal of a workplace discrimination lawsuit by Terry Smith, a Black Illinois transportation employee who sued after he was fired. He claimed that he was called a racial slur by his supervisor, and Barrett wrote in that the N-word is an egregious racial epithet. That said, Smith can't win simply by proving that the word was uttered. He must also demonstrate that Colbert's use of this word, it's not Stephen Colbert, altered the conditions of his employment and created a hostile or abusive working environment. She seems to be implying there, Adrian, that saying the N-word to your employee does not by itself constitute anything.
Yeah, and as shocking as it may be, that is the law. The bar has been set so high by the judiciary to win on workplace discrimination claims, whether they be age discrimination, sexual harassment, or race discrimination, or all the forms of discrimination. The bar is so incredibly high. And it's set that way because, unfortunately, this is a white male patriarchal world, and the Civil Rights Act was kind of a way to appease the civil rights movement and to hopefully quell the unrest. But in practice, as in when people actually bring cases before the courts and the judiciary, the judges have essentially created this whole case law that says you really have to endure significant abuse and intolerable behavior in order to win in a workplace discrimination case. So Amy Coney Barrett was applying the law. I was very almost defensive about this point on Twitter and social media because this opinion isn't a reflection of Amy Coney Barrett. That'd be naive to think that, and it'd also be a very limited mindset of assuming she's the evil one. No, the entire state of the law is evil, and the way it is set up to work against the employee. And so we need people to understand that this is so much bigger than Amy Coney Barrett. She is merely applying the law because the law is what is against people.
Well, look, I think that you're right, but I'm gonna add a little wrinkle. So you're saying it's not her that's evil, it's the system that's evil because this is baked into the system. But she says, I can't say whether the evil is baked into the system. So she's going along with it, but she won't even acknowledge that it's there.
Exactly, because we just saw in her confirmation hearing where she was like, not gonna be able to say, is it structural, and I thought that was an unnecessary punt. And so I do see these two things as separate, but they definitely intertwine and connect. Because on one hand, in this opinion, she is applying the case law. And for her to diverge from it would potentially be problematic, or she'd just be in the dissent in this case. But when she's before the hearing and her refusal to acknowledge racism being structural, being in the system, I think that that's problematic because she's just ignoring the facts and what we know this world to be.
Yeah, so look, I'm glad that you're here to add all of that context because I did not know quite a bit of this. Yeah, when she goes on to say that Smith, quote, introduced no evidence that Colbert's use of the N-word changed his subjective experience of the workplace. I guess that's the law. It seems to me like it's not up to me to say whether that changes someone's subjective experience. If they say that it does, I don't know how much evidence people should have to provide that it does. I don't think I get to decide that. I don't think that Amy Coney Barrett gets to decide that, but apparently they do get to decide that.
Yeah, it's but one interesting elements. You have to show subjective that it changed your outlook, crazy. That it made you fearful of working there, that it upset you in some way. And that's the thing is the law is it can be so nuanced at times and also so particular. But of course, the judges are the ones that say whether you have it or don't have it, and they'll call you out on little things, or maybe they'll give you a pass on it. And that's unfortunate.
So one extra thing, and now I'm actually very interested to see what you hear about this, although you're probably well aware of this. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, then serving as a federal appeals court judge in Washington, D.C., said one utterance was enough. Quote, But in my view, being called the N-word by a supervisor suffices by itself to establish a racially hostile work environment. The epithet has been labeled variously a term that sums up all the bitter years of insult and struggle in America, pure anathema to African Americans, and quote, probably the most offensive word in English. No other word in the English language so powerfully or instantly calls to mind our country's long and brutal struggle to overcome racism and discrimination against African Americans. In short, the case law demonstrates that a single sufficiently severe incident may create a hostile work environment actionable under federal anti-discrimination law. So that's all Brett Kavanaugh. So based on what you've said, he's wrong there?
No, that's the thing. They're in two different circuits. And that is why the law, you don't know what you're gonna get and you don't know where you are. She was coming from the 7th Circuit, where I believe there are 12 judges on that circuit. 10 were appointed by Republicans and our conservative judges. He's coming from the DC Circuit Court, which is definitely a lot more diverse in terms of thinking. And so you could go to the 2nd Circuit, the 1st, the 9th, they're all different. And that's the problem, because then you end up having a case, hopefully making its way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is the one that gets to decide what's going to be the law in the land. Because really the law differs from place to place, but the general frame of mind and the general thought in the vast majority of circuits is that one racial epithet isn't enough. And especially because that person, it seemed, did not explain how it subjectively changed their outlook at the workplace. Because for instance, somebody who may be black may say the N-word to me as a greeting and it doesn't bother me. And that's very different from hearing it maybe from a white colleague who I'm not close with. I have to show that it subjectively changed my outlook and that it changed how I felt about my work environment.
Sure. Okay, you're fair. And there's a comment. Well, I know, and this is why we need you on here, because I don't have the training to add all this. I can only give what I consider to be common sense, which is mostly like, to all of this. But Stan Z sent in a super chat saying, I'm so grateful for Adrienne dropping all this legal knowledge on us. I learn so much every time she's on the show. Stan Z, me too. Add me onto that. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.